Funky guys. Oh, alright, guys. We got some time. Apologize for the weird sound effect. Alright, we're normal. Yay! Don't judge me, guys. Found the way to fix your brain. Are you ready for it? Oh, yeah. Party, guys. Mobile's so slow. Seriously. I can't tell you guys how slow it is. I'm live right now. I've been live for almost 2 minutes. There you go. Now the mobile finally went. I don't know why. It drove me nuts. Right. Alright guys, we're getting ready to start. Gun chest, everything makes sound. Sure, stuff that sound and sound. Alright guys, ready to start. Alright. We're ready to go. I believe things should be okay, right? They shouldn't just randomly break down, right? That's not something that happens. Come on, right, guys? You guys gonna back me up here or what? Come on, man. Pick me up. Pick me up when my oh, got some popping noises. What? What? Yeah, I hear some popping. I hear some popping. Let's see. No. Oh, my popping noise! Be gone! The cool. All right. So those should be gone now. And let's get to work. Let's get on some homework, guys. We're gonna work on some homework today. A couple things that I need to do. I need to. Maybe I shouldn't do that. So I'm reading this. I'm answering questions. I wonder if I can open this up and open another one of these up. I wonder. It just took me to this. That's not what I want. You cheaters. And I'm gonna turn up the music because it's a little quiet for me. A little quiet for me. Too quiet. How dare you be too quiet? I am the one. Not my lover. This girl. I'm the one. Not my son. The kid is not my son. This kid is not my son. Of the storm. Of the storm. Yeah, 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 yeah. No. Alright, so we're gonna get this started. We're gonna get on. I found a way to fix your brain, guys. It's this right here. You gotta read, you gotta understand, you gotta enlargen your knowledge, alright? So I was working on this. Well, let me go back to this. I gotta do a few things. But how's your guys' day going? How's it going? How's it been? Found a way, make your brain better. No clickbait. Violations. Oh, hey, oh, hey. Ooh. Californication. 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 Gonna comment on some people's post. Let's see, week 5. When picking up back the chapters up, human piqued my interest the most. I found it fascinating. There was so much environmental influences that can impact parental development. It's alarming how much of an impact drugs, toxins, healthy fetus. It's yep. Yeah, definitely a drug baby right here, sitting right in front of you guys. Okay, there are a couple of aspects of motivation pretty familiar to everyone. These aspects being the biological aspects. Eating, breathing, and using the restroom. However, there are some topics I talked about in the chapter that really piqued my interest. For example, the topics of obesity, eating habits, and homosexuality. I think it's very interesting and controversial. Your genetic has a lot to do with each of these things. With obesity, the study done with restrained eaters stood out to me very much because I believe that could be classified as one of those. I never really thought about the fact that I think incredibly too hard about what I eat. It's a bug. I've definitely been one of those people that ate 100 cookies just because I felt like I had already cheated by eating such a large piece of pizza. Also, crazy thing, my fiance's friend and I get in debates about homosexuality being linked to genetic makeup frequently. We both pull up studies that back our beliefs, but I can never get him to understand the concept of being born like in a certain gender, like you've been born like certain foods. I'm excited to show him that this is ours in our curriculum. I would use that to further argument because you're arguing and you're not actually like the point is to get along with everyone in life, right? You're arguing with your significant other, then you're gonna just end up arguing about everything because everybody has opinions on something. Everyone has a different belief. But if you have a talk, a critical thinking talk where it's like, hey, I don't care who's winning in the situation. I just want us to talk, have open discussion, and provide some more food for thought, which would be evidence of one study pointing out, hey, homosexuality is by genes, and the other side saying that, you know, it's most likely not from genes and you're something that you, which is interesting in this book. I actually found it really interesting too, the homosexuality. Now I'm gonna bring it up. I think I'm gonna encourage her. Her name's April. April to not argue or debate. She says debate, but when I think of debate, I think argue. So maybe I'm wrong for that. But I'm I don't know a couple who gets in debates who doesn't argue a little, at least a little. I don't know. It might be the messed up family life I came from. Let's see. Step down. About, yes, it was interesting to read about. Yeah, I would agree. I'm gonna focus on homosexual studies presented in our curriculum, and I forgot how to spell curriculum, so okay. It was interesting to read about the studies presented in our curriculum about the studies about homosexual. No, read about the homosexuality studies. Yeah, let's do it that way. Homosexuality, guys. This is exciting homework. Do not die. All right. Yes, it was interesting to read about the homosexuality studies presented in our curriculum. I definitely not go into a debate about it. Interesting to know that having more friends who are part of the, because LGBTQ community just kind of covers everybody for the most part. I do like how LGBTQ community made a community. Like, I guess you can make a community out of anything because it's kind of a wide term, but hey, they picked something that worked. They made it work. So we'll just leave it at that. Yes, it was interesting reading about the homosexual studies presented in our curriculum. It was definitely interesting. It was definitely interesting learning that having more friends who are part of the LGBTQ community makes you less homophobic. You less homophobic. And I think, born or not born, I think we shouldn't be fighting. I don't want people to feel that way. The fact that in this they found study-wise that homosexuals, I just hate saying homosexuals because I feel like, but it doesn't matter. So anyways, people who prefer the same gender, sex, what's the word I'm looking for? Words. I lost all the train of thought right now. Kind of like feeling a little lightheaded, maybe. Maybe I need to drink more water or something. Ugh, talk about water. Ah, not my water's gone already. I'm done, guys. I didn't hydrate. Guys, I didn't hydrate enough. Ugh. It's my cologne. It smells amazing. Alright, so the LGBT community will tend to make you less homophobic. I'm gonna say them. I would encourage you to not. You can't tell someone not to do something, it sucks. But I encourage you to spend time with I'm not members of the LGBTQ, but with homosexuals, because that's the way. Gay, you can just say gay. Spend spend time with sexual homosexuals. Maybe he will decide for himself with your encouragement, because I'm starting to learn I am very stubborn, and if someone just brought me around and talked to me in a sense, I would be more open-minded about things. Maybe he will decide, because like, see, I wouldn't want to live in Australia, alright? Because, well, I'll give you reasons. I want to live in Australia. I would go live in Australia in a heartbeat, especially New Zealand, even though they're two different places. Anyways, main story short is I would go live somewhere. Most people are like, I don't want to go live there. So, what if you just brought them? They visit. They didn't say they didn't want to visit. They visit, fall in love with the place, and they're living there. Like, they didn't even know, like, they're gonna love the place. They honestly thought they were gonna hate it, but because they didn't experience it for themselves, you know, they weren't aware that, you know, a place like Australia was a beautiful place to be, and you could actually enjoy a life there. Like, maybe if I dropped you off in the middle of the desert's gonna suck, but like, if I showed you all the good things about it, you would have more positives. If you have more positives than negatives, you might actually enjoy the place. Who freaking knows? Anyways, back to my freaking homework, because I'm never gonna get anything done at this rate. I definitely would encourage you to let your significant other spend time with homosexuals. That just doesn't sound right. Okay. I would encourage you to let your significant other spend time with gays. Maybe he will decide for himself with you encouraging him. Probably their minds. Him being curious. Because I'm gonna assume he's curious into this subject, since this is why they brought it up. Into feel or influenced, is the right term I was looking for, into being gay. Curious. I forget how to spell curious. Stay alive. Curious. You guys know how to spell curious? That'd be great. I think it's Curious. Ah, I was right. Okay. Gays are born or maybe he will decide for himself if he encourage him, and him being curious into if gays are born or influenced to being gay. That's gay. He can do this by probing their minds, their thoughts, and beliefs. He can't do this. I forget to put can. Do this by probing their thoughts and beliefs on his own. That a study shouldn't that a study doesn't always get someone to change their mind. Alright guys, this is enough for Dr. Phil. I hope you have a nice day. So it doesn't always get someone to change their mind. In doing so, you could prevent a continued debate upon the subject. Staying alive. I'm staying alive. Oh, yeah, it just popped my. Oh. It's weird when you randomly drop frames in your computer. I don't want to care. Am I getting ads? I am getting ads because I didn't actually sign it into my YouTube. I need life. I need a new life. Loca. Earth, Wind, and Fire. Ooh. I don't know, I wasn't trying to get into these. I was trying to fine, I will just do Nils official. I don't know what Nils is official is that anyways, like how you he doesn't have oh sorry it didn't actually take me to the channel, actually took me up to everything that had him marked with it. Let's go to playlist. I'm gonna do playlist. He only has a 11. 11 videos? It's weird. I don't really like this one as much, so we're gonna skip that one. There we go. Let's see. Now back to the beautiful, beautiful life. I know most of this is I'm doing off stream, but that's just keeps people's personal space private. You don't need to see it all. Come on. So do I. Any other thought? What I'm feeling. Understand. How I'm feeling. You understand. I'm never gonna let you down. Turn around or desert you. Lift you up. I'll say goodbye. Desert you. Lift you up. I'll let you down. Turn around or desert you. Lift you up. Goodbye. La la, 150 more words. Is that Nelson? Nelson? Mandela. I'm gonna name myself Nelson. They're just amazing people. They make a big name for themselves. What is going on? Is it my eyes? Is my eyes that doing it? Because it looks like they're freaking flashing by. Yeah, I can see my eyes. Alright, let's see. I thought this was interesting. I will have to bring this up. Because you can be a high achievement person and still not like rule the world quite the same way. NACH is need for achievement. What's your achievement at, right? What's your need for achievement, guys? Understand. Understand. Never give you up. Never get you down. Run around or desert you. Give you right. Say goodbye. Tell you lie. I hurt you. Live you up. Never gonna get you down. Run around or desert you. Live you up. Say goodbye. Live you lie or desert you. I'm just another kind of guy. Oh, what's up, man? Spike, what's going on? Lots, all the raid, everyone. I'm surprised you're getting off, honestly. I'm guessing you're gonna do something. After the Pokemon Go, I'm freaking dying. I'm just doing homework, so if you guys want to bop out, it's fine. I'll switch to something eventually. Just doing homework. It's all the raid. Raid! How's the sound, by the way? Too quiet or too loud, guys? Hi, Machar. Thanks for stopping by. What's going on? Sounds fine. Sweet. Okay. Thanks, Watts. I appreciate it. Like, I checked, but I was using my phone. So, awesome. Yeah. What are you up to? We're gonna go do Mad Spike. Got some stuff on my glasses.
Flux Nerd is now.
Aw, thanks, Flux Nerd. I appreciate it, dude. That's awesome. Thanks, man. But I'll have to get a drink and come back, and my spec was gone, and you were here. Surprise! I just hit my desk. Yeah, no, I'm just doing homework. I'm doing my psychology homework right now, so nothing exciting. I mean, I think it's a little bit exciting. I can sit here and talk to you about stuff all day. Like, gonna go hang with the fam. Might be back later. Okay, awesome. Enjoy the fam. Tell your significant other she's awesome and have a great day. Say hi from Ty. But yeah, I'm just going through this stuff. It's fun. Yeah, I'm doing homework on stream. I was like, you know, there's other people that do it, but I was like, I might as well do it too, because, you know, I definitely enjoy some of this. This is really amazing. There's a lot of things you can go through on here. Like right now, I'm going over a chapter called Motivation. And it kind of has quite a large range, believe it or not. It goes everything from well, like sexual norms and phases of sexual response and stuff. So it's a little bit up. Later, say hi to Stormy. Yeah. So, like the psychology of eating right here is pretty interesting. It's like you see on the right hand side here of the screen, you got restrained eaters and unrestrained eaters. What happened was they did a study. They had them eat a large slice of pizza, like both of these restrained eaters and unrestrained eaters, and then they gave them cookies. Well, they found out when they give you a larger slice of pizza, the more a restrained eater was gonna eat of cookies versus the unrestrained. So I thought that was kind of interesting, because I was like, how does someone who's unrestrained, who usually eats whatever they want, like they don't really care, right, is eating less than someone who's restrained? I just thought it's funny. You hated psychology? I actually like it. I actually like diving deep into that thought process. I like to stroke my brain and be like, oh, okay, I didn't look at something like that before. That's why I'm pointing out this. It's just like, oh. So if you want to run away, it's fine. I understand. I'm really just going through some of this, and I have a quiz tomorrow, and then I have to post some stuff. You eat less when you're in a group than when I'm alone. I mean, I'm not gonna psychoanalyze that, but like maybe it's peer pressure. Maybe you're actually just having such a good time that, you know, you just want to eat more. Like, you want to enjoy yourself, or you're more unrestrained. But I don't know how I'm not sure how I eat, because I consider myself restrained, but I'll eat like large amounts of food. But I'm skinny, I guess. The metabolism. I'm starting to get a belly, it's sad. But I'm about to write about the high in ache and the low in ache, which is the need for achievement and stuff like that. So, let's see. I wish I could show you. It'd be nice, but it's got hidden. I don't like peer pressure. I always do the opposite. I mean, I hate peer pressure too. Don't get me wrong, how many times I did everything no one else did. But then there's lots of times I found myself doing what everyone else did because it was just easier. I'll admit it. I'll be the first one to say it. I did. I did go with the crowd. But okay, let's see, I'm gonna write this out. But Machar, did you ever post those pictures of your house? I don't think I paid attention, to be honest. I caught Bun's pictures, which are freaking amazing. I don't know what else to say to that. Not yet. Okay. Because I'm curious what you painted your house. I haven't been back for a while, so it's like I haven't seen your house. Um, now I forgot what I was doing. Yeah, but it's a shame. You can say that about Bun. Freaking Bun's so lucky. I was like, but you know, hey, I'll save money one day, and I will definitely make it to somewhere as beautiful as that. No, I have not figured out who you are yet, Madchar. It's kind of driving me nuts. At the same time, I think I know who you are, but at the same time, I'm just fine with guessing. Or, yeah. I'll figure it out eventually. We'll get to that bridge when we get across it. You could always just DM me too, and just let me know. So I'm gonna title this part of my homework as attributions for success or failure. That sound good? You're nobody really. That's a lie. You're somebody. Somebody I remember. I just can't think of who it is. Because I can name a lot of people from my hometown. It would happen. Eventually. I'm gonna turn my music down. I'm like blaring in my ears right now. So. But how's your day been, Madchar? How's it been going? You have any plans for the weekend? I know Mad Spike probably asked you the same questions. Let's see. Attributions. Alright, let's just do success or failure. Success and failure. You for achieving is that? Yeah, don't mind the effect going around my head. It's probably slightly weird, but I'm gonna go let you study. Have a nice evening. No plans. I'm tired from all the painting. Alright, well, have a good night. Thank you. I appreciate it. I was just saying that the weird flashing effect above my head here is my background remover without the green screen, so it's not as smooth, but I still like it. It's nice. There's not much behind me besides like I got some I got Harry Potter wands, literally Harry Potter's wands, a Charmander, a Peter Pan, and a little figurine of Deku from Hero Academia. That's all I got. So I was like, I like removing myself from the background a little bit. Success and failure. But I'll see you, Madchar. Have a good night. I'll be on for a while. Success and failure. So, what's the best way to sum up all this? 'Cause I know there's something. Yes, once again, good night. Thank you, Madchar. So you have the high and low achievement. Need for achievement. So this boy has finished his violin lesson. He's happy with the progress he made and is beginning to believe that all his progress is making sacrifices worthwhile. To become a concert violinist, he will have to give up much of his social life to practice for many hours each day. Although he knows he could make more money by going to his father's business, he's more interested in being a great violinist and giving people joy with his music. He renews his personal commitment to whatever it takes to make it. The boy is holding his brother's violin, in which he could play it, but he knows it's not worth the time, energy, and money for lessons. He feels sorry for his brother. He has given up all the enjoyable things in life to practice. Practice. It would be great to wake up one day and be top-notch musician, but it doesn't work that way. The reality is boring practice, no fun, and a strong possibility of becoming just another guy playing a musical instrument in a small town band. So that's your high versus your low. It's kind of interesting. What's actually gets really interesting is the fact that they actually point out here that, for example, high scoring ENIAC people were found to be more upwardly mobile than those with low scores. Sons who had high ENIAC scores were more likely than sons with low ENIAC measures to advance above their father's occupation and status. Men and women who measured high on the ENIAC at age 31 tend to have higher salaries than their lower ENIAC peers by age 41. Do these findings indicate that high-end individuals are always willing to work hard? Not really. In the face of tasks that they're led to believe will be difficult, active individuals quit early on. In fact, seems to typify high active individuals as a need for efficiency, a need to get to the same result for less effort. They earn more than their peers. It might be because they also value concrete feedback on how well they're doing. As a measure of progress, salary is a very concrete way of agree. Need for achievement also predicts success in particular types of careers. Consider entrepreneurs. This is where I thought was interesting. Is the need for achievement does not always guarantee success. For example, people with high need for achievement may fail as politicians because complex real-world problems leave them unable to exercise personal control. Yeah, it's kind of hard. I can see why I would not be a good politician. It sounds good. I would love to run for president, but how fulfilling is it, to be honest? Like, oh, I'm passing another bill, guys. Hold on, I just passed this $100 million bill. This is gonna, save you guys from paying taxes in the near future. You'd be like, holy crap, that's amazing. I'd be like, okay. It sounds amazing, but I don't know where my dog's at. He's MIA at the moment. I can't believe it. Being rated was amazing. Let's see, I don't know if I could cut this out so the window wasn't doing. I would let you guys see what I'm typing. Might be a little more excited than just staring at the screen. Actually, what's this? Did I read this? Once you sign up for introductory psychology, Angela Blake, you can see how Angela's Blake's goals will motivate them. Oh yeah, I remember reading this one. Wait, maybe I didn't. Let's see. It's representative of a student who has performance approach goals. She focuses on appearing more competent than others. Blake is a representative of a student who has performance avoidance goals. Focuses on avoiding being judged as less competent as others. Connie focuses on improving her own level of understanding. She's displaying mastery approach goals. Derek is largely concerned with preventing himself from doing worse than he's done in the past. Is exhibiting mastery avoidance goals. Researchers measure students' goal orientation by asking them to agree with statements such as, I desire to completely master the material presented in this class. I just want to avoid doing poorly in this class. I feel like that's a little bit about me. In general, students with approach goals are more highly motivated and engaged in behaviors that help ensure academic achievement. One study assessed students' behaviors 2 weeks before introductory psychology exam, and then immediately before the exam. Those students with performance avoidance goals avoided studying. 2 weeks before the exam, they admitted that they hadn't yet done much to prepare. Immediately before the exam, they admitted they didn't feel ready. Students with mastery approach goals and performance approach goals all started preparing for the exam well in advance. But there's a approach and hold on, performance approach. What's the difference between performance approach and? Okay, hold on. So I wanted to get a top grade in class. Okay. But why does that mastery? Okay. Derek is largely concerned with preventing himself from doing worse than he's done in the past. He's exhibiting mastery avoidance goals. Okay. So what's the point then? Why would you bring up the mastery avoidance goals? At least you brought up this fact that there's a difference in it, but come on. Alright, so 2 weeks before the exam, they admitted that they hadn't done yet much to prepare. Immediately before the exam, they admitted they did feel ready. Students with mastery approach goals and performance approach goals. Okay, so given the effects of the students' goals on their study behaviors, you won't be surprised to learn that the students with approach goals most often outperform the peers with avoidance goals. For example, one study demonstrated advanced advantage on an oral examination for students with performance approach goals. By comparison to their performance avoidance classmates, the performance approach students were not overwhelmed by the difficulty of class material. In light of this research, you might take a moment to consider your own goals, how they affect your study, practice, and coursework. Why might students with performance avoidance goals delay their studying? Because it's you don't want to do it. That's pretty much what procrastination is, right? I want to do something. Why? Because whatever reasons you have. What could students do to change from avoidance to approach goals? Well, one, self-talk. Self-talk would be big. Alright, let me get back to this. I'm going to type this up real quick. Success and failure, we were talking about the egg. I just love this whole section over, because now I'm gonna love it. Excuse me. These two chapters were informatory. I don't know. It's informatory. I'm just enjoying sitting here doing homework while streaming. It's fun. I love it. I'm going insane in my brain now. These two chapters, because Mad Spike showed up with a raid. These two chapters. These two chapters are very informatory. Or informative. Oh crap! I can't even think now. I flustered myself. These two chapters presented a lot of maybe I always lead off with that. I probably do. I'll probably lead off with it more than I think I do. See, this is the reading chapter 11. This. Oh, reading chapter 11 on page 13 to what is it? Ends on 19? 319? Yeah. 319. Reading chapter 11 on the page 316 to 319 was 319 really sucked me into the material. I found it amazing that I found it amazing that a difference can't spell reference and need for achievement are NACH could show a difference in not only how much you earn, but even how, let's see, you're not, okay, need for achievement or ACH could show a difference not only in a difference not all in, I found it amazing that a difference in need for achievement could show a difference in what you earn, but even just in what choices you would make for a job. Yeah, even in just what choices you would make in life. Like, in my case, I can give a great example where, you know, I wasn't satisfied with being a cop. It was enough achievement for me. You know, checking cars at the gate or pulling someone over and giving them a ticket wasn't an achievement for me. I don't think it's an achievement to head a piece of paper and most likely put you back in hundreds to $1,000 worth of stuff because you were dumb, or you know, my superiors told me to do it. Anyways, that's why I decided it wasn't for me, and decided I would go with something where I feel my achievements were higher rated, or I felt I made more of achievement. So reading chapter 11, page 316 to 319 really sucked me into the material. I find it amazing that the difference need for achievement or NACH could show a difference in which we earn and how much we earn. How about that? That's why I get mad at people when they're lazy or they're not quick to jump on things. Like, they're just doing the bare minimum. Let's put it that way. People who just do the bare minimum just boggles my mind. Show a difference in how much we earn. In life. I just leave it in life, because earn in life, because it's not just money. You could also earn a better status. You could also earn a better living for yourself. It's not just money. I think it definitely goes beyond that. So, but even just in what choices you make and choosing how you want to live that. Okay, so I'm gonna make that 2 sentences because I'm doing a run on sentence right now. But even just in deciding. Yeah, stuff changes real fast. It's crazy. You would never believe it, guys. So, don't lose your minds, alright? Oh, man. I really gotta go to the bathroom, though. I'm really at the point. Even just deciding what choices you would make in career. Or just in pursuits of life, pursuit of happiness. Would make it in pursuit of happiness. There you go. Happiness. I haven't seen that movie in a while. It was like good, but like not into those movies as much. Pursuit of happiness. I feel as I am a high NAC, because, you know, I really do appreciate feedback. It's amazing. It's nice when someone can look you in the eyes and be like, hey, I freaking enjoy you. I love coming in. I love seeing you. I love the work you do. It's amazing. It makes a lot. I will beat myself bloody and blue, and I will freaking jump through hoops just to freaking help you, because you actually took time to actually say something to me. I feel as I'm high and as my past has shown. I feel as I'm high in AC as my past has shown that jobs where I felt didn't feel great, where I felt not necessarily they were not that they they weren't grateful that I was there. Just didn't show enough. Jeez, man. Where I felt underappreciated. That's better. Underappreciated than I thought I deserved. Oh no. So I'm a as my past has shown that jobs where I felt underappreciated, where I felt unappreciated, less than what I deserved, less than what I thought I deserved. It's homework, less than what I thought I deserved. As I'm HNACH, as my past has shown that jobs where I felt underappreciated, less than what I thought I deserved, I would perform. Yeah, I'll be that guy. I'll say I underperformed. Oh no! What's happening? How could you do this to me? I would underperform my duties at time. I don't feel like I was always underperforming duties. I guess there's more stuff I could have done, and it was just I knew they wouldn't show me anymore. It didn't mean I didn't do the right thing. It didn't mean that when someone needed help, I didn't help them, or when I needed to enforce something, I didn't enforce it. Just probably there was definitely times when I was less likely to go up and beyond what the job called for because I felt unappreciated in some aspect, even on a bad day and a good day. I mean, would underperform my duties at times, as I saw that my efforts weren't always rewarded or gave a sense of self-achievement. So you can always get self-achievement from everywhere else, besides also from yourself. Gave a sense of self-achievement. In the end, I chose to pursue another job to find an easier way to be to reach my achievements, my goals. Let's see, and then I chose with only one O. Guys, save me here. What are you doing? What is going on with your life? Oh man. Here, there's a recapping main points. Might help out if you really want to read about any of this. I don't think anybody really does. I feel like homework's amazing. Don't you guys love homework? In the end, I chose to pursue another job to find a easier way to reach my goals, while still feeling a sense of achievement from my responsibilities. in the end. I think knowing it and know how I feel, and then I could choose. I wonder if you could selectively teach yourself to find achievement. Or not find achievement. Find. Yeah, this is to find higher achievements. Even when it might actually be lower. When it might actually be lower than what you would call normal. Or satisfying. Yeah, shoot the most. Even when it might be actually lower than you would call normal. Satisfying. Oh, this sparks somebody. Yeah. Discuss somebody spark someone's interest, somebody's interest, and we could discuss how to better ourselves. Why not? Why is this someone's interest? That'd be better. I feel all this pressure. I put pressure on myself right now, thinking that me doing homework is not that great. But if you want to talk, we want to chat, I'll take it. I'll chat. I posted what I need to post, and I did what I needed to do for homework wise tonight, so that's great. Let's see. Study. I think I'm gonna go over these next. I'm going to do chapter. Hold on. First, I'm gonna stop myself. I'm gonna go to the bathroom because I'm gonna die otherwise. I mean, I'm not gonna really die. Come on, let's be honest. Dude, what's up, man? How's your day going? I'm just about to run to the bathroom, dude. You caught me at a time, man. What's up? How's you been? How have you been? Yeesh. Man, I can't speak languages right now. But man, what's going on? How's it been? Not too bad, my dude. Just waiting to get into a game of League. Ah, gotcha. Well, thanks for stopping in, man. Haven't seen you in a bit. It's been pretty crazy. I made it to over like 60 followers or something like that, and just working on getting my view up a bit so I can reach that affiliate level. But other than that, man, it's been interesting. I guess Maple's still freaking cute and big. He's freaking 25 pounds, dude. He's freaking crazy. I know you're trying to hop in a game of League, but where are you at right now? Did you rank up more or what? How's your computer, by the way? Are you gonna start streaming again? I kind of miss your streams. As much as like you don't sit there and have a conversation, it's just whenever you do talk, it's fucking awesome. You're Silver 2 now. Nice. That's dope, dude. Yeah, let me go grab Maple so you can see him. It's freaking huge right now. And I'm going to the bathroom after this. I'm not even seeing you a monster. But, look, he's cute. He's lovable. Oh, sorry, you like burped just now. It's freaking big. Let's see, oh, you're gonna start back up tonight? Sweet. I don't have to throw you on. He's so big. It's crazy. The cuteness. Oh, dude, before you go, man. I know you probably have a bunch of Discord servers, but hop into my Discord, dude. So then you can throw your promo up. He's laying in my seat right now. He's laying in my seat. It's a good boy. It's a good boy. He's gonna sleep in my seat. I'll sleep in my seat. Stay there. Just stay there and be cute. Oh yeah, Maple is a guy. Hold on, I'm gonna do this. Oh, there you go. Now he should be shot a little bit easier. Ow! Just hurt myself. I guess not. Anyways, I'll be back. I gotta go to the bathroom. Nothing but a lazy doggo. I like how you show up now, but your nose is just a little black hole. Little black hole. Why are you so cute? I don't even want to move you. I don't want to even move you. What is going on? But Flo, if you're still there, dude, yeah, man, I've been playing COD a lot, so I haven't been playing any League much. It's been a nice little break. I needed it. I can't wait for the next season to start up. Oh, you're so fucking cute. You're so fucking cute. Okay. Can I have my seat back? Can I have my seat back? I know I did this to you. It's my fault. And I know you were just sleeping in the living room, but you know, I want my seat. I want my seat. Oh yes. Alright. Fine. I'll put you over here. Put you over here. You're fucking cute that you sleep in the bedroom. There you go. There you go. Nice cool air. Enjoy it. Well, Dad sits here and talks to people. Alright. I'm back. I'm back from the past. Oh, Flob, dude, you gonna get sword and shield, man? A sword and shield. It's a dangerous combo. It gives you a 1, 2, 3. And some more. I'm debating if I should play COD or not. Ow. I'm gonna pause this and then we'll bring this back over. How have you been? How's your day? What are you doing with your life? Did I... What happened? Oh. Oh, wait. Back, hold on. Oh, I see what I did. I see what I did. What have I done? There you go. I just chatting screen. Like it. I gotta work on it. I gotta work on all of it. It's freaking driving me nuts lately. I'm running in the dark. You can't find no soul in me out. What are you saying, Ty? What have you done? Dog's on the move. Watch out. He's on the move. He's on the move. What is going on? Waiting for the game to load. Oh, with a hotkey. I didn't set it. I didn't set done. Capture any full screen. Let's do that. Any full screen. Will it actually do it though? Display capture 2. Don't care about that. Man, it won't capture it. That's weird. Right. Save. That's my hotkeys. 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 Oh, you know where they're at. I know exactly where they're at now. Making that big move. That big brain move. Let's see. What is this one on Pokemon right now? Okay. Adding Pokemon. Capture video device? No. Show current game. Yes, I do. Want we're gonna do what can I do? No, I don't want to do that, do I? Running in the shadow of the night. Can't think of what hotkey I want to use. Shoot the loop. There we go. Why? What? Oh no, that's hide. Doesn't. Push this. This free? What just happened? The COD just like crashed? Something like that. Oh no, that's not it. That's not it. Stop. Don't do it to me. Don't do this to me. How dare you do this to me? Yeah, COD crashed. COD freaking crashed. It didn't freaking want to put up with anything. Son of a beep. Deep. I don't care. Just start it up, dude. Give me some love. Give me some sweet love. Hi, my name is Ty. What are you going to do with your life? Let's see. You're on Mixer right now. I will be there in a second. I promise. Give me time. I'm just setting things up. Fox went to bed. Bye, Fox. Fox. Alright, here we go. We're about to play some COD. Are you guys ready? Are you ready to rumble? I gotta pick this up a bit. There you go. So not getting this weird like mic shape that's existent but not existent all at the same time. uh, you're like, what's that shape, guys? What's that Pokemon? No, that's not it. I'm looking for that voice. Alright, the game's really loud in my ears. Let's do some warm-up games. Oh wait. What's my mission right now? I forgot what my missions are. Oh. Great, they're not showing me what my current mission is. They give me mission challenges. I have to get finishing moves. Oh. I can do finishing moves wherever. It doesn't matter. I actually don't even know how to do finishing moves. That's the question. How do you do finishing moves? Let's see, finishing move, guys. So you guys know how to do finishing moves? And I should probably turn that display capture on. I'm getting captured twice. There you go, YouTube. YouTube, we're going to finishing moves. Yeah, and Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Finishers, how to do finishers.
Sir, I appreciate you guys for tuning into the channel. Know what I'm saying? Drop a like on the video. All the execution, I'm not giving you the code. So anyway.
Road to 100K. Oh, that's dope. This guy already gets a sub. Just for that.
Today he decided to help me out, so I need you guys to go ahead and sub to him. Follow him on Twitter. He's hella fun.
That's Modern Warfare going on in my going on in the back row.
Capture and defend the forward. Capturing Charlie. Control Charlie.
I'll follow this guy, watch him die,
Taking B.
and then kill whoever killed him.
We've captured B.
Oh, yeah, we got him.
We've taken the lead.
Oh. This side, huh?
Following you.
What do you mean following me? More like you guys are dying. My hand feels weird.
We've lost Bravo.
Oh. Ah, I freaked out. I freaked out too much. Ah, there's another guy. Okay. I got teamed. I got teamed up on him. That freaking sucks.
Capturing Bravo.
Alright, I know those guys are going, so.
You've lost the lead. We control B. Enemy care package inbound. We're in
Got him.
control.
Oh, you kidding me? Come on, guys. You saw that, right? I had him down. I got assist for that. That's nice. Yeah, I hit him hard enough there.
Enemy at the cave entrance.
Got him. Alright. Oh. Oof. Panicking too much. I'm like all over the board right now with my freaking aim.
We're taking A.
We might be screwed here.
Friendly gunship in the AO.
Oh!
We control
This
Alpha.
guy was not coming the right way. Alright, well I know where they're at now. I think I have some frame rate drop.
Please back off at Bravo. We're in control. We're losing Bravo.
What the fuck? Did I kill him?
Enemy personal radar in the air.
Oh, what the hell? I never run over there. I barely even tapped my keys, bro. It's a freaking madhouse is what this is.
Keep hitting them.
Oh no! Ah, that was brutal. I got 25 assists for that, bro. That's nice. Someone died over here.
We've lost Alpha. Capturing Bravo.
Alright, well, fuck me.
Taking B. Enemy care package in. We're taking B. Capture B.
Let's see.
You are needed at Charlie.
And they died.
Lost Charlie. Enemy chopper gone out. Taking Alpha.
Weapon, wake up! Oh, just mastered my weapon, finally! Oh, yes! Oh. Nope. One back.
Assist your team at B. Enemy controls 2 objectives. Take them back.
Oh.
UAV online.
Oh. We killed him. Oh, that was a teammate. That was enemy. Oh. See what to do. Man, my sound's cutting out.
Enemies halfway there. Step it up.
It's freaking my own teammate. I'm stupid.
We're taking C. We're taking A. Enemy interruption. Losing Bravo.
Alright, kill
Control
him.
A.
That's cool.
We control all points. Keep your... Hostiles have Bravo. Enemy at the
Are you freaking kidding me?
Hostiles are taking Alpha. Capturing Bravo. Lost A.
Oh, he's finishing him.
Taking
My
B.
bad. I just saw red tag.
We've captured B.
Nice. Rocket's about to hit. Oh, the smithereens. No, nobody. Nobody hear the wreck things? Oops. Ah, oh, shame now. Notice where he was at.
Radar in the air.
Let's go. My nose.
Control 2 objectives. Got them.
Ah, come on. I can't believe you just went prone like that. Should have just jumped. I don't know. I don't know. There's no way. I don't know what to do.
Enemy cluster strike incoming. Take
What's
cover.
the best way to get someone prone?
Overhead.
What the f-
Enemy cluster strike.
Ah!
Taking A.
I was so ready. I was so ready. So ready.
Losing Charlie. We have the lead. We've lost Charlie. We've lost the lead. We're taking Alpha. We're captured A.
Oh.
We're in control.
Yeah, we may be in control, but I'm about to die. Wow, rockets over there. Did you just die? I mean, you just died. I don't know, something's going on. Ah. Apparently I'm the one dying. That's what's going on. That's what's wrong.
You're needed at B.
I got an assist for that. Okay, that sucks.
Hostiles have Bravo.
Yeah, of course I got
Taking
Bravo.
Alpha.
Surprised that... Okay,
Assist your team at C.
this guy's dead.
I'm taking fire. Get to position.
Oh, I don't know. Something's weird. Something just doesn't... I might have to just move my mouse. Ah,
Enemy
I hit my mic.
KO. We've captured C.
Alright. Something just feels weird. Something feels off. I don't know. Something does. Just, it's hard to explain.
Enemy UAV overhead. Capturing Bravo.
Oh, I freaking slid too. Just because that gives him an automatic headshot.
Back. Taking B.
Alright, well, they're not there. So I must kill them. My ears die right now. I got revenge. That's the guy that shot me earlier. That's funny. Man, I freaking hate that VTOL. I can freaking hear him so much. It's not even funny. Going death in my freaking head this side.
Bravo and Charlie. Got them.
Alright. Ready to shoot time.
Enemy at the rock shop. We're crushing them. Stay with it.
Ah ha 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 ha. OG pretty, bro. Bruh. It's freaking killing me. Has been killing me.
You're needed at Bravo. Capturing Alpha.
Hey, we won. GG. GG.
Easy prey, easy day. Good work.
Easy prey, easy day. You kidding me? You see that score, dude? That's freaking. That was close. Alright. I can't play for too long, nothing. Oh, yeah. What I haven't tried is turn this off. It's my CPU. I dropped 82 frames during that time. Oof.
Oof.
Oof, yes indeed. It's my girlfriend's here. Everybody run. Everybody run, the girlfriend here.
You playing with anyone?
Nah, not at the moment, why?
Just curious.
I'm streaming though, so.
Yeah, I know. I got the notification.
Oh. Playing team deathmatch. Oh, not joinable, not joinable. Splendid. Oh, she's in play game lobby.
Again.
Like a few minutes after that.
But the point being is that look at what time it is. It's not even like it's literally
It's they're 2 or 3 hours, right?
2 seconds.
busy to the point where I never really left register unless I was peeing. Again. So.
You gotta find a register that's closer to the bathroom.
I wish. I was fucking sitting there doing the potty dance, and Anthony was supposed to come up and switch with me.
Yeah.
But he didn't have a headset on, so Tony didn't bother calling him a second time, and I was just sitting there like dancing around the whole front
Just
of the house.
dying the whole time.
I was like, Tony, you better fucking come watch this register, or else I'm just gonna pee right up here. I was like, I cannot hold this any longer. This is really bad. But love you.
Love you too.
Get your teeth out. Time to hunt.
I'm freaking gonna die in a second.
Lost control.
Loadouts? I don't know. Let me get back into this game. You know what it is? My sensitivity wasn't even coming in until after. Maybe that'll help out a bit. Let's see.
We've lost the lead.
Gotta watch my sectors better. Nice. Avenger. Avenger away.
Target down.
Oh, that was my own teammate. Shoot. Can't see anything. There's no mini radar.
Target down. Radar drone ready.
Oh crap! Someone came from behind me, of course. Hold on. Let's see. I know I wanted to change something just now, and I forgot what it was. Why do I have to forget what it was? Why do I have to forget anything, to be honest? Alright, let's
In control.
Big juicy.
Flash out.
Oh, dude, seriously?
Turbine down.
Oh. Well, I didn't mean to throw that far. When you don't know your own strength, you know? That's probably the best spot to say.
Friendly UAV online.
Oh! He was right in front of me? Oh, jeez. I wasn't ready for him.
Throwing grenade. Flash out. Enemy cruiser.
Oh! What in the blazes? Man, that's harsh. I am dropping some frames right now,
Lost
though.
the lead. Enemy precision airstrike. Inbound. Take cover.
Freaking messed up. A dead body on the ground. Woo! I wasn't paying attention.
Enemy care package inbound.
Alright, it's my own teammate. Ah, dropping frames.
3 more set. Enemies halfway there.
It's 170 frames dropped already. What is going on then? I have too much stuff going up. That's what's going on.
Enemy UAV overhead. Gotta reload.
Alright, let's go. Got this. Dude, it's just running around like a crazy man. Oh, what the frick is that, man? Oh, you freaking kidding me? Yeah, kidding. Oh, what? Damn it. So, oh great, now it puts me all the way over here. Yeah, and I'm dropping frames, yeah. I'm gonna have to shut something down. Something's taking too much CP, maybe. I can't actually see where my teammates are, so I just hear a bunch of noise. That's it. That's all I hear.
Enemy care package inbound.
Oh, what? He saw me before. Oh, freaking not even with this right now. Totally not ready for this. This was the video where I was gonna watch that. I'm going to say no. I'm gonna die anyways. Goodbye, Ty. You were nice to see. Let's see, let me close all these out. Let's see if this. I might have to go and change something. I shouldn't be dropping so many flames. It's not like a. It's this guy again. It's freaking killing me left and right now. It's literally killing me right now. Inside.
Enemy UAV overhead.
Oh, behind me.
Enemy cruise missile incoming.
This is why I don't like team deathmatch too. It's just a lot of dying back and forth. Behind me. Of course it's behind me. Not safe anywhere, guys. Please refrain from... I'm just... there's just shooting going on all around me. I swear there's another place up here. Some place you can hide.
Enemy personal radar in the air.
That wasn't... Wait, they got a personal radar up ahead?
Allied cruise missile on the way.
Nah, I didn't hit anything. Now I can see people through the walls. I can see where my own teammates were. Some bull crap. He definitely got hit with a shotgun. Let's see. Ah, he got me. I was worried about the guys across there. He could have saw me and just shot me. Alright, let's go. Come on, Ty. You can get back in this game. You can get in this game. I will be relevant. My life will be better. I thought that guy was enemy for a second. Alright. Fine with that. Oh, just saw an enemy. That was close. 68 to 75. Oh, my stomach though. I'm a little hungry. Alright, and I stopped dropping frames, so that's good. Oof. Yeah, I just saw that guy. I was just about to shoot that guy. Oh, but he ran forward, so maybe I missed him. Maybe I missed him completely. Oh well. We'll do it better next time, man. Oh, that's right. Oh, Koopa. Oh, Koopa. Oh, Koopa. See, multiplayer, and oh, that's what I gotta do. Give me 1 second, guys. I just need to edit some stuff. Let's see. Oh, I know when I do transition. Let's see. I'm seeing two of me. This is the program. This is a preview. So if I click the stream, forgot. I'm trying to fix stuff. Trying to fix stuff. Let's see. I don't know. I just typed that all out. Crazy. I am a crazy son of a gun. Don't judge me. I will find ya. I will find ya and I will dismiss that because I'm going to forget what I was doing for a second. So there we go. Gotta fix this. Back. See. Oh no. I just got to change the colors real quick. Trying to set this up. I don't know what that did. It did no good. Oh, I see what it did. Ah, did not know you could do that on OBS. See how does that look? Nope. Can't find a good color. There's too much going on in my one picture here. But that was better. That's better. Much better. Let's see, let's go drop it, and then I'm gonna tint it out. But yeah. No, sorry. Let's see, preview. Fonts? What's this? Nah, I don't like that. That's too weird. Too weird. How about this one? How does that look? You can put that over his head. That would work. Okay. See. All right. Now exit studio mode. Gonna go. Be right back. Be right back, guys. See ya. Guys, I'm dying. Alright, I'm gonna take I'll have to eat. I'm freaking hungry right now. You guys don't know this. Hold on.
Oh,
Let me see
wow.
screen.
That was lucky.
Chat. I just popped it out. Where did it go? Where did it go, guys? Oh, there it is. Okay. No, that's not it, is it? There it is. Okay, it's right there. My bad. I didn't see it off the side of the screen.
I hear one pushing my side up in the little building.
I can't grab it. It won't let me grab the window. Move it. Ah, it's messed up. Yeah, see, it won't let me grab it. It won't let me grab and move mixer.
Doing bad? Why bad? Ooh. From Twitch and Mixer. Oh, man, dude, that was it. I was reading my chat. Sorry. My bad. Di, how do you stream me on your Twitch? Sounds cool. Hell yeah. 'Cause I found out the password. Oh no, I'm sorry, 3. He's scared. How do you know he's scared? You can just feel it. Oh, what? Oh, that was scary. Revenge. Oh, that's so cool. Hi, thanks for doing that. I appreciate it. How's your day going? I mixed your name. Oh, he's pushing your side. I mean, my side. I guess your side. You're up there. What? I swear I put shots in him. How did I miss? That's impossible. It was like I wasn't even shooting.
Time to get paid.
Oh, dude, go get your food. Burrito, when are you gonna get your four-wheeler fixed? Do you, like, use it on the weekends? Where am I going? Oh, I got sniped! I saw the little flash and I was, dead. Red Bull. Are you eating a Red Bull? No, I have Bud Light.
Step it up.
Yeah, I hope so for your sake too. I mean, I've never been on a four-wheeler, but I imagine it's fun.
Alright, guys, I'll see you in a bit.
Oh, come on! No, I was pulling the trigger. Bud Light weak. And no, that's what I got. Ooh.
Shake it off. Focus up for
Damn. I don't think it would have helped, dude. We're just kind of like, I don't know.
time to earn a living.
It's pretty funny though. Oh, good stuff. Heh.
Good work. Keep it consistent.
He was running away from you. Yeah, I know. We
One
just
more
pinched
round.
him.
Destroy them.
I see one your side and one my side. What? Oh my god, they're both over here with me.
10 seconds. Outstanding. I expect nothing less.
Good stuff. Oh, we won? Heck yes. Finally. That was a good win, right, Burrito? I think it was. We had to do a win because Ty was streaming me. Hmm? Oh, yeah. You're like, let's not play them again. I think those guys are different. Hmm. You made some dope clips. Oh, yeah. I'll have to see them.
Gunfight. Eliminate all enemies or capture the overtime flag to win.
Okay. I like the
Show them what we
shotgun.
do.
Where's the other guy? Where was he? Ooh, I found him.
Take a breath. We're going back in.
Oh shit. Where is he? Oh. What?
Round. Keep it up.
I don't even know like where he was, honestly. Man, that was a sad way to die. Like burnt in the inferno. Good stuff. Oh, how'd he get me? I always forget those guns are a one-shot kill. It is. Nice.
Stay focused. No mistakes. This round is
I mean,
ours.
not one-shot kill. One-shot like, fire. They're both at the tower. One's moving towards middle. Mm.
One round is nothing. Prepare to fight. Kill them all or die trying.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Maintain pressure. Next round.
Nope, not today. Sit down. Oh, behind the rock. Their side. Moving around towards the cliff with the water. Behind you. Yeah, that way. What?
We're not done yet. Make it happen.
What just happened? Oh, you was... Oh, wow, that was just lucky.
Forward. No mercy. There is no one else.
Oh my goodness, I thought you had it. My bad. I should have helped.
Sure. They're on match point. We can't take another
Okay.
loss.
Hello?
All depends on you now. Ten seconds.
Oh man. How?
Enough of this. Fall back. We'll return.
Yeah. I thought I was backed up enough that he wouldn't hit me. I think he got lucky. I know. You carried us. But really? Alright. New try.
Gunfight. Eliminate all enemies or capture the overtime flag to win. You are green to get some.
Pushing on you. What?
Down, but not out. Get ready.
I hit him so many times too. I definitely hit him before that too. One's up. Right? He's dead. back at spawn.
10 seconds.
Right there.
Objective located.
Good stuff.
That's a win. Get ready for the next round. You are green again.
Oh, middle. Middle. Oh man,
Wins down. Keep up the pressure.
that was scary. I got up in the leg. I wasn't expecting anyone to walk up. What? How am I missing him? What?
Forget that round.
I missed every single round. I'm so mad. Hey, after this, do you want to play
Let's give 'em
Battlefield?
hell.
Or are you not big on Battlefield? What? He's behind the stairs. Oh, there he is.
That's a win. Get ready for the next round.
Whisper. What? Okay. What am I doing? What are we doing? I'm gonna follow you. Are you up in the middle, or is the guy? What?
Ground. Take it back.
That was crazy. He must have gotten a headshot on you or something. What? That looked obnoxiously fast. Like his rate of fire.
Guns out, demon dogs. Time to hunt.
Right side, back behind the stairs. Pushing the tires on the right side. Got him.
That's how it's done. On to the next round.
Cheers. Oh, cool. Middle. Oh, good stuff.
Wins down. Keep up the pressure.
It was like I was bait.
Switching sides.
You were the trap.
This is match point. Go for the knockout.
Oh, both this side. Oh, I got one hit on him. He's back at spawn on the right side. Oh
Losing
no!
ground. Take it back. This is
Fake
match
news.
point. One more win. Let's see it.
Where'd the other guy go?
Demons brought the shit to the fan on that. Good work.
You want to try Firestorm for like a couple rounds and then go back to this? Okay. Say that again? Yeah, I'm down opening the game right now. What? Oh yeah, yeah, the orange, like yellowish thing with the dude. Yeah, I don't know why they picked that. Yeah, I like some parts of it, but it's kind of like, why did they go? I don't know. One, why orange and yellow? And two, like, what, that dude, like, his face doesn't look normal. I sent you an invite. Okay, let's go. Mm. What did you say? The bed? Did you say the bed? Oh, background, yeah. Oh, the, like... Yeah, it's a weird pick. Yeah, that's crazy. What do you mean? Like... Oh yeah, you have a lot. Yeah, I know, in like Halo you can do that. Like you can share like yeah, in Halo. But not in Battlefield. I don't know how you would do it in Battlefield. Alright. Hopefully we win. Okay, where are you? Oh, it's glowy. It's that fire set. Looks like he decided to jump in a volcano. Where are we going? I'll pick. I vote here. Is that okay with you? We're going for this house. No, actually, I'm going for this house. What? What do you mean? Yeah. Sneaky, sneaky. Oh, I hear shots. just wanted to kill him. He's dead. I killed him. Yeah, I think he was alone. I was trying to save our friend here. That poor guy died.